Hello Natroners and welcome back to another episode of VFX with Natron. So, today we're going to be exploring a bit of gimmick. This was, gimmick, that's how I pronounce it. I don't know if others do. It's G''MIC, which to me, G with a apostrophe, anything that has a little apostrophe after it, if it's a hard, makes that sort of a hard letter, so it's G or gimmick, or would be how I would pronounce it. Anyhow, I was asked a while back by an individual on YouTube, of all places, if I could go into some other gimmick stuff. So I thought to myself, oh, well, we're doing a pirate map, and it just so happens that there's a lot of types of things we can do with pirate maps. And I also want to expand just a little bit on this. One of the overall arcing goals, the reason that I'm doing this long bit about it, is because the original VFX with Natron intro logo that we've been using forever and a day really was created sort of on the whim at the very beginning as an extra bit for somebody, and it really doesn't capture the flavor of me. And also I've been thinking about redoing it, and I thought to myself, what better thing for a pirate to have than a treasure map intro? So that's kind of where I'm actually going with this, and I thought I'd just bring you guys along on the way. So that's actually why we're doing this, and why I'm sort of focusing and spending this extra time sort of bringing you through bit by bit as I approach some of this and so forth. So that explains that. With that being said, one of the things that we didn't do, or haven't actually done up to this point, is we haven't looked at actual reference images of pirate maps and treasure maps and so forth. And there's a lot of, stuff, and we could look at real ones and stuff, and we could look at fake ones. In fact, let's just pop over here, and I happen to have this up. I did a Google search for pirate treasure maps and image search, and I happened to pull in a bunch, and I stumbled on a few, and the one that really stuck out to me was this one right here. This is obviously an illustration, it's not authentic, but it has a few things that I thought were interesting, because it captures our two of the elements that I think are found besides the parchment itself, which I'm not crazy about their parchment, and so forth, and I'm not going to say that I'm crazy about the consistency of all their art style and everything, but that's besides the point. What this does have is, as we can see, this has a horizontal cross hatching that we had made for in a previous one, in the very first episode. But it also has this other really interesting kind of contoury lines going around the island or the continents or whatever you have. And these are the two things. A lot of times you'll find this type of the horizontal stripes as waves, jaggedy, like I was doing in the first one. But another type is these. And so it got me thinking about how would I go about making that inside of it, because it's a much more complex thing. And it actually turned out that this type, while I was exploring this, I found something that actually might work at doing the other thing even better and simpler. And it will also be able to do this. So I first want to show you something where I was originally planning to go with this episode, which was this. This was my original thought. This is using gimmick. This is using an old, I believe it's called an etching, an emboss thing. We're not going to be going down this route. It was long, it was complex. The real problem I had with this, although I really, in a lot of ways, really like this, it has a really organic feel. The problem is it's also restricted in how on its resolution. You can't really make it bigger or smaller. In order to get it to normal video size or to modern HD sizes, you have to render it out at a smaller size and then upscale it to get it, and that's not exactly the best. So I thought, maybe I could find something else. And lo and behold, I discovered what today's goal is going to mostly be. This might be a two-parter. I have a feeling it's going to be a two-parter, because I don't think we're going to be able to get through everything regarding this today, because I want to go over the node a little bit more. But today's goal is really going to be this. And as you can see, this is a lot cleaner. It's a similar feel to the other one, but it has a lot cleaner lines. The contours are a lot more interesting. Well, all right, I won't necessarily say they're more interesting. They're a different type, but they're more controlled. And there's two big, huge bonuses to this particular method, which are that we're going to be able to animate it ultimately, and there's multiple ways we could animate it, and the other thing is that we can scale it to work with pretty much any with any resolution. With any resolution we could up it to work in 4K, 8K, 1080p. It doesn't matter. It'll always work. We can set it up to work that way. So this raises the question: what exactly was that? What gimmick node was that? So let's start first by giving ourselves some text. You know what? In fact, I'm going to just save ourselves the time. I already have our treasure map. We're going to use the same treasure map what we've been using before. We had this. This is just, as you might remember, it's treasure map dead hand 200, a font size of 200, just in case my face was covering it. Font size of 200. All right. So the first thing, excuse me. All right. So what is the font? Or how are we going to do this? Well, there is a gimmick node called, I think it's called edges and offset, or edge offsets. That's what it is. All right. If we go into gimmick, which is right here on my system, and go down to, I believe it is under contours, we have edge offsets right here, and I just want to make sure it's not hidden. Good, it's not behind my face. We click on that, and it brings up this. And let's hit Control-1. I'm going to pull that in, up, zoom it in nice and close, and we wind up with this. And you say to yourself at first, the first reaction is holy moly, it's got all this stuff that's going around. But there's a lot here that's really, 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 really interesting and really, really useful. And this could be, in my opinion, very, very useful for so many things above and beyond just doing what we're going to be doing today. The fact that this is a series of concentric, lines that are uniform. Well, let's actually look at this a little closer and actually start playing with some of the controls, because there's two main controls that we're really worried about. There is a smoothness control, and I recommend playing with that a little bit on your own. And there's a threshold, and the threshold is, if you don't have something that has a solid line, a solid like black to white transition, the threshold can determine where it transitions into this over gradients and so forth. And it's really interesting, but it really doesn't capture, it doesn't actually halftone gradients and so forth. We would have to do that, but that doesn't mean we can't use it for it. In fact, we're going to be taking part of the technique we used in the last, or in the other episode. We're going to turn this into our own dither pattern to use with this, so that we can use this to define a halftone. But, excuse me, boy, I got a tickle in my throat. All right, so the two things that we need to know is this scale, which is the white space between these, and we can increase this up and down. Let's take it up a bit more, and we can see we can make it nice and wide. And the thickness, and if we take the thickness, that's the thickness of our black lines in between. And this is incredibly useful, because this means that this node can create lines of varying thickness. It can create, it can do it in the black and white. I mean, we could just invert it if we want it to be the opposite colors. But for right now, one of the things that's nice about its defaults, whoops, let me reset that so it's back to 1 and 1. The other thing I want to bring up about this is that when we did the oh yes, and there's one other thing I should point out before I continue on, which is there is one aspect of this that I'm not overly crazy about, which is the fact that it has this one thick line in it. that's both useful and not super useful at the same time. We could use this to generate outlines for things, and I did a demo on that, or I should say I made an example of using these for doing outlines in Natron, outlining objects, shapes and stuff, by just isolating this one thick line from the rest of the lines. And I might do a video on that in a future episode. But what we want to do here, all right, I need to breathe. I'm talking too fast, getting way too excited about this. We need to step back for a minute and just talk about this. So what we're going to do is we're going to be basically using this to get, we're going to get 3 of the lines out away from this. We're going to superimpose our text over this again. And we're going to be, all right, well, let's see. Let's do the obvious thing. We don't want this to be, we want our text to be visible in this. So the obvious thing that we want to do here is we want to add a merge node in. And we're going to put the background as our text and then the foreground as our image offset, and we go like that, and nope, that didn't work. I did it actually backwards. I want to put the background, excuse me, as the image offset, and then put my text over it, and there we go. We wind up with white text over it, which knocks out the text. Now, wait a minute, you say, you might want this to be black. Well, we will be doing the black in a different way. The way we're going to actually do that is we're going to put a solid over here. And we're going to put a solid and set the A to be the solid. And then we're going to use take the mask and pump it into this. And we'll just pull that off to the side like so. So it looks sort of like this. And the reason that we're doing that, and the reason it's not showing up, is because, again, this is a solid. We've run into this. We just have to click that, and there we go. We have black. The reason that I recommend doing it this way is it means we only have to work with alpha channels. So if we want to do this allows us to do a few extra things that we might want to do. One of the things that allows us to do is allows us to take our text node and we can merge it into this a second time. So I could take a solid here, duplicate the solid, change it to white, and I could feed this in here as a background, and then put a dot here and connect this up to the mask. And at first this is going to look like it is no different than before, except for if we disable the second merge node, we can see that it's white underneath. So why would we want to do that? Well, this allows us to create, or we can use this white node. If we can expand this, aka increase the mask size, we can use that. So there's a couple ways we could go about this. The easiest one that probably pops into everybody's mind is to simply, well, do a clone. We could clone this. I'm just debating whether cloning this is the best way of dealing with this. I didn't do that in my original, and as you guys know, when I deviate from my original, that can often lead to funkiness, we'll just say. I came up with something I felt was better, or at least at the time I thought was better, because one of the things I want to be able to do, we want this to ultimately superimpose over a white background. Let me just think about this for a moment. Hold on. I'm pulling up, all right. Pull up my original over to the side. All right, so one of the things we want to do is we want to be able to dictate our view size. So we want to put a solid behind this as well. So we're going to put another solid up here. This is going to be used as a source to drive the shape size. And we're going to push this off to the side a little bit. Just pull that over like so. And we're giving ourselves a little bit of room over here to work with. And from this solid, I'm going to just hit a period and bring this down like so. All right. So then what did I do? I brought that over. All right. So the reason that we want to do this is ultimately we don't want this to be this pattern that we're going to have here. We don't want it to be necessarily perfectly round. We want it to be able to warble back and forth just in case we want to make these waves. And so what I think I want to do ultimately is I'm going to put an SE noise over here. And today or at some point we may take this and expand this further. But for right now, I think what I want to do is just have this off to the side, something to think about. It's just going to sit there. We're not going to use it yet. We're going to put another merge node right here. We're going to take the background here. This is just the black coming into it. Oops, I zoomed out too far. And we're going to, let me just see for a second. I want that to come down, and we're going to do an Erode Smooth off of this text. So let's look at the text, and then we're going to hit Erode Smooth. There we go. And let's reconnect that. So these masks are coming down like that. This mask is probably going to go into this at some point. But for right now, what I want to do is bring this in and have this go in like so. Right. Let's see something. I want to take the Erode Smooth like so. Why would we want to do that? Well, the reason, let me think about this. Was that needed? Is that needed? You know what? I think this is actually an unneeded section here. I think we can just go straight into it. I was doing this differently in my original, but now that I'm looking at it, I realize it isn't needed. I'll go around these things. We're going to just take this down like so. We're going to keep that there. We're going to Erode Smooth into this, like so. So why are we Erode Smoothing here? The reason is that we want to, oh yes, we want to affect the alpha of the Erode Smooth one. Why is that not? Oh, we're not, we're eroding inwards. Let's go back to 1. Oh, wait a minute. That's the exponent, right? Yes. We want that to be 5. Sorry. We want to be able to either bring this up, the size up or down. And by doing this, we expand it. All right. So why do we want to expand it? Well, obviously, we don't want this to be... One second. I want to make sure... Right. What we want to do is take this. We're going to be using this as a mask here. Let me make sure of this. Hold on. Wait a minute. No, we want this here. Right. This is going to be B. And then what we're going to do is merge this. So, oh, no, not, excuse me. I want to put a period over here. So we're going to bring this out from the Erode Smooth. We have this. We've expanded it. We're going to bring it around this. Here's our map. This is our original map. And we're going to, we want to bring this out in size. Yes, we want to be able to bring this in and out to expand its size. But then we want to be able to superimpose. I think I may have made... No. This is making sense to me. All right, we're going to expose, we're going to expand and shrink this based off the Erode Smooth. Let me just make sure I've got the Erode Smooth set up correctly. We're going to set the exponent of this Erode Smooth to 3 because I want to smooth it out a wee bit on this. And we can see that that just rounds out the edge of this area. Here, let's just look over here for a minute. So let's put this back to 5, which was its default. And we can see it's really hard when it transitions in here. We want to set it to 3 so that it rounds out on the edges a bit. And we're going to just set this Erode Smooth size to 10 for right now so that it's nice and even. And that's going to start our rings off approximately at that location. All right. And then what we're going to be doing is we're going to... All right, we got the Erode Smooth coming down. We're going to be superimposing this over with a mask. So we're going to be bringing this in like so. All right. And what this is doing is it's setting up the inside border so that our island or this white space starts off wherever we dictate it by this Erode Smooth. This sort of sets up a space around it. This could be our island or whatever. So if we come down here and look at the text superimposed over it, as we can see that this text here is coming around the edge and going into the mask. And then this one, so we have, this is our waves, the waves going out. This is the Erode Smooth, this Erode Smooth brought out and expanded over it. But we can see that it's, right now we have a little bit of a problem. We can see that we can see actually the texture below it because, as we know, this Erode Smooth isn't exactly solid. It's very, very soft. Excuse me, because it's an Erode Smooth. Surprise, surprise. So what we want to do, I just want to make sure of something. Aha, that's why I think I did it originally. All right, we're going to pull this up and over like this. That's why I think I did this, is that we want to also merge this so that, let's do a merge here. Let's bring that out. Bring that in. All right. Oh, come on. There we go. So we want the B to be the background and then the A to be this. So what did that do? By what I'm doing here is I'm actually, let's go look at that alpha channel for a minute. When we superimpose it, what we're doing is we're taking a little bit of the extra softness at the edge. Wait a minute, that does not... Uh-oh. Oi, this is a problem. All right. So if we try to connect this up, it's saying here, you cannot connect this edge offset because it doesn't match. What does that mean exactly? Well, that is actually, that's going to cause problems down the line, because what's happening is we can see that this ROD is bigger than our output resolution, and a lot of gimmick nodes don't like that. So what we're going to do here for this to ensure that this Erode Smooth can always pipe into this if we accidentally disconnect it, we're going to go back here to this merge over node. That's why this merge over node is here. So we want to change the bounding box to be the B input, and as you can see, that crops off the outside of it, the extra ROD from the Erode Smooth, because the Erode Smooth expands the ROD ever so slightly. All right. Well, by doing that, it ensures that when we connect it back up, now our gimmick node is not going to give us any lip, and it should work fine. And I want to just make sure that, so there we go, it's connected up, and then there we go. All right, so that's working properly. That's why we have it there, is so that we can break this apart and pull things apart just in case. It's always important to know potential limitations of a node and how to overcome them, and that's a potential limitation people might run into. All right, so that gets that. next, I want to make sure that we have this. So what I set the scale for this. I want the rings to come out a little bit more. So I'm going to set the scale here up to 6. Oops, not 8, 6. There we go, 6. Which gives us a nice big space between the rings for the waves. And then we're going to go down here, and this knocks it out. But as we can see, it's not perfect. So how can we fix that a little bit more? We can do, I'm debating if we even need this at this point. I'm going to hold off on doing that because I think we're going to, yes, I think we're going to actually do a few things here. I want to pull this over a little bit more because I think we want to plop a few nodes to over in this spot over here. All right, so what we're going to do here is put a dilate in here. Dilate. Instead of doing the Erode Smooth up at -10 at this point, let me make sure I had it set to 0 for the time being, because we actually don't want to do this part of it with that node, because that node, this Erode Smooth, if we dilate this Erode Smooth, we saw that it created a problem. We wound up with hard lines. So instead, what we're going to do is we're going to dilate it. We're going to use this. We're going to use this, and we're going to set this to 15. All right, and so that pushes it out, and now we wind up with nice solid lines. We wind up with something that looks pretty good. We wind up with, it eats into here a little bit, but that's okay. I think that's okay, at least. Let me make sure I'm getting exactly what I had on my other. So that's what I have there. Then what I did is I blurred this. Okay, so we're going to take this dilate node, which we can see that the dilate node is really hard. We want it to be soft, a lot like the Erode Smooth. But the reason we're doing this is because we want that to, well, we're going to, this might make, we may change this at some point in the future. But for right now, what we're going to do is put an iDistort in here, okay? And why are we putting this iDistort here? This iDistort is going to be connected up to this SE noise to distort this by whatever we feed into it. And so let's set up this iDistort. This is going to create, sort of push things around a little bit, break up this wavy pattern, give us a little bit of more ripples on the side and crinkles on the side of our islands. And it also will work for actually generating water and so forth. So let me go back up here. What I set for this, I'll set this to, this is our SE noise. We're going to set this to 50, 350 down to 50. We're going to drop the octaves to 2. We're going to, for the moment, we're going to just set this to 0.025 for the Z slope. Now, wait a minute, did I need that? We're going to just, yes, I want that because we're going to be creating a second one of these in the not so distant future, and I want this to match with the other pattern, and the other, when we animate this, it's going to be multiplying frame 1 times 0.0025, or something that's going to be the equivalent of it. And we're also going to drop the gain down to 0.1. All right, so we get this nice soft texture. That's going to be the that's going to be our UV. We're going to hit period and pull that down just a little bit. In fact, might put a little space here so that this comes across right about, actually we're going to need a little bit, a couple spaces. All right, back here. We're going to blur this. I forgot to add the blur. Blur between the dilate and this. I'm going to set the blur to 11. And that just softens up the blur. It just does a better job than Erode Smooth. If we had set the Erode Smooth to 11, we wind up with something, oops, not 3. If we set this up to, whoops, to minus 11, because it's a dilate. If we set this up to minus 11, it winds up nice, but this actually works better when it is set to, we're going to set that back to 0. This actually works better for cropping out bits of the shape when we're masking out. So for right now, this is what we're going to be using in here. We're going to be using this to create a softness. All right. So now I just need to make sure of a couple things. I want to make sure that's there. This goes there. That's the mask. That should be going in like that. That goes in there. That's B. Right. All right. So this mask, what we're doing here is we're actually going to take a background, which is going to be white. Okay. So this solid here is going to be our B input. All right. To this merge over node. And then we're going to take our waves here and we're going to be running those into the A input of this, using this as our mask. And so we take this A input here like so, and then we go back, and this is what we wind up with. And there's a reason, the reason that we're using the edge or using a dilate and so forth is because it breaks it up a bit. And what I really wanted to get with this is we're going to quantize this again. And I want this area to, the edges of these to have these, to be very broken up as it gets further away from the lens, so to speak. All right. So this is going to be our waves going out. I'll reverse this. All right. So before I had it going in the opposite side, I realized, I was like, wait a minute, this isn't making sense. We don't want it so that this is defining the outside of it. We're using it to define the outside of the waves. All right. That's why the white goes in there. All right. So that gets this to look like this. All right. And then what we're going to do, and again, this is going to be our wave pattern. And so what we're going to do is just bring this up a little bit so that that can cut through like so. All right. And then this dilate, we're just going to pull it, drop it down like that. So that it comes in, and this can come down just a smidge more. So that's a nice clean crossover. So we can see that there's the UV is coming in from our SE noise. All right. Next. So that creates the outside of it. Then what we're going to do is after that, we're going to make a quantize. We're going to bring this down. This is our text node coming down on the edge. This is so we can get our map. This is going to be the actual inside of our edge. And this Erode Smooth here is going to be the texture that, or the size of our islands. When we get around to actually making the islands, this Erode Smooth is going to create the island size. This dilate is going to work off of that and make push the outsides of the waves out from there. And then which ends up creating the distance from it. Okay. So this creates the distance of the waves away from the shoreline. This is a shoreline. This area over here is the distance away from it. We're creating two pieces of it, the outside and the inside. This softness here, again, outside. All right. Black is empty C. This is beyond the outside. This is the inside currently, which matches the text exactly. I'm just got to make sure we got that clear. All right. Next, we want a quantize in here. So let's go back to looking at the text coming out. We're going to quantize this. Quantize. Put the quantize nose in here. We drop the quantize down to 2. So it's 2 colors. And we can see that it makes it nice, and it makes it nice, but it's broken up in a way. We have this nice broken up edge as it gets away, but we don't have any dither pattern out here. So what we're going to do, I just want to double check mine. I think I used, yeah, ordered Bayer. Oops. We're going to switch it to ordered Bayer void cluster 14, like so. And there we go. This breaks it up in a really nice way. And if we look at it at a 1-to-1 ratio, it might be hard to see on the internet. So I'm going to just double its size. And we can see that it creates this really lovely broken up pattern that looks like we have more or less solid lines as it's close to the shore. And then as it gets further and further away, we wind up with more and more of a dithered pattern and less, so that it's as if the waves are dissipating into the ocean. All right. So that's what that's going to do. And then we are going to, let's see. I actually have that at a different point, but that doesn't matter. All right. We're going to here, we're going to put another dot node. Oops. Sorry, wrong key. I wanted to hit not M, but a dot node there. Put just a dot node connected to that point. All right. That's going to our Erode Smooth, which is, again, our land. All right. This is we're creating our land because remember, this is our land. Or, well, this is actually our text, which is going to be inside of our land, our land is actually going to be basically the same thing. We're going to have a white spot that this is all going to merge into. So let's see. We also want to anti-alias this. Right now, this is very, very jaggedy. So we want to create an Erode Smooth after this because again, you could use a GLSL, to do this, but to do your anti-aliasing or whatever. But I think that we can achieve a nice anti-aliasing here. Using a couple, we're going to use two Erode Smooths on to create the anti-aliasing for our edges. So we're going to just hit tab. Let me make the short tab, excuse me. Wait a minute. You know what I'm noticing? I don't have my hotkeys up. I apologize about that. That makes it hard for you guys to follow and see what I'm typing when I'm typing things. So hit tab. Let's hit escape just for a second. There we go. So we're going to hit tab and we're going to put in an Erode Smooth. And we're going to take that Erode Smooth and we're going to set it so that it has an exponent size of 2, which, as we know, that's how smooth it's going to be. And then we want, for our actual size, what we're going to do is set this to 1.006, which is just going to do this smidge dark area like so. As you can see, it just makes it slightly darker. And when we go to view this at actual size, you can see, let's look at it before and after. That really just helps it read on the screen. That's one of the things. We're going to actually put a second one in a few minutes. So we were coming down here with this, and we're going to, let me see. Do I want to do that yet? What we're going to do here is we're going to actually duplicate this Distort. Let me just verify this. Yes. Oh, wait a minute. No, yes and no. We're going to duplicate it, but we're going to give it a slightly, we're going to copy it. We're not going to clone it. We're going to copy it. We're copying this iDistort because we want the exact same settings, and we're going to drive it actually from the exact same point. So we're going to put a dot node down here, connect it up like so to our SE noise, which is going to be driving it ultimately. I'm going to pull this down a little bit more like so. Whoops. I didn't want to break that like that. I want to pull that down. Make sure this is there. And then we're going to take this and we're going to hook this as our source here. And then take this over like so. All right. And the difference here is this one. Wait a minute. Am I doing it in the right? Hold the phone. I'm sorry. I did it at the wrong spot. I want to connect up here to this one. Right, like so. Just making sure. Yes, I want to connect it to there. And this is going to be a slightly... Let me make sure I get this correct. This iDistort. Oh, we haven't done the iDistort yet. We actually haven't set the values up. So iDistort 1, what we need to do is obviously set up this to 0.5 for the U and the V. Let's take a look at that as we're doing it. So we set it up to 0.5 on the U and V. And for this one, we're going to set this to 10 for the distortion. And you can see that that just distorted the edge a little bit. Ready? Let's look at it before and after. Ready? Just before we can see, and then after. It just adds, you can see just little bits of crinkles into it. And if we go over here and we look at our actual edges, it might not be super duper visible. Actually, let's look at our quantized node here. Actually, we're going to look at the Erode Smooth, so it's a lot more visible. So here, we're zoomed in. All right. So let's disable this. We can see that it just breaks up the pattern a little bit more. It's going to add some things, and it's going to make this whole thing, what it's going to ultimately do is cause this to whole shift around. So those points will look like waves that are sort of changing as the tide moves. But we want to keep it looking like it's done in this artistic form of a pirate map. All right, so let's see. Back to this Erode, that's our Erode Smooth. So down here on this iDistort, we're going to do this as our second iDistort. And for this iDistort, what we're going to do is we're going to set it up to, again, 0.5, tab 0.5. That's why we were supposed to copy it, but that's okay. In this one, we're going to do 20. And we want it to be significantly more afterwards, because the first one is basically going to make some of the points on the water shift and change, and so that the pattern changes. Otherwise, the pattern won't change as the water moves. We want it to change a little bit as the water moves, but that isn't. This was the main purpose of this, was to change our mask, to animate our mask. That this is filtering through. So the bits that are coming through, these points, they're coming through this mask. So when this ultimately animates, these will change over time. These pixels will change, and they're going to change at the same rate as the actual lines are going, as these lines are going to get moved. And the second iDistort here is the one that actually moves those lines in and out, as we can see. Because if we hit before and after, we can see this is the line pushed in and out. So this is exactly how it's going to move. All right. So that's an important factor. But as we can see, this has made it very, very soft. So we face another problem here, which is we need to, I want to, I could have sworn, well, the Erode Smooth does make it a smidge softer. Well, we're going to add one more bit of Erode Smooth onto this, just to ensure that our anti-aliasing is good. We're going to do another Erode Erode Smooth after it. And for this last Erode Smooth, what we're going to do is set the size to, let me make sure, I'm going to keep the size at 1, 5. Actually, I don't even think this one's used. Does this thing actually do anything in the original? I might have taken this out because it wasn't doing anything. Let me make sure of something. Oh, it actually does do something. All right. This does do something. It just cleans up the edges a little bit. So what we're going to do with this one... Oh, wait. We do have something here. It's point... Oh, it's just really, really small. I'm going to copy this and make... Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right. So we're going to zoom in a lot because this is going to be very, very subtle. So the problem I had with this was that... after it got done with the going through the eye distort, it made it look just a smidge too soft. And so I wanted to eat into this a little bit. I actually want to erode, I believe. I want to make sure, yes. So we're going to go here, and we're going to go from, for this, it's going to be 1, and then we're going to do 4 zeros and a 5. All right, and when we do that, now, wait a minute. I thought it did the opposite direction. Did I make a boo-boo? And it doesn't matter. The key is that I felt it looked better with it. Let me just double check. Oh, I guess it is. I'm sorry. That's right. It softened it. So one of the problems that we run into with the eye prior to this is right in here. We can see that it's anti-aliased down to here, and then it gets a little jagged right here. It's like very white here. So this will create a sort of a step here that doesn't look good. And just by re-enabling this, watch this pixel right here underneath my mouse. See how that just added that little bit of extra blobble right there, so that it anti-aliases. So this it just will make the overall effect read a little bit smoother when I know it's a subtle thing, but when we do this at this level, hopefully, I don't know if this is going to read on the Facebook video. This will probably read better when it's on YouTube. Even here, it's pretty hard to see, but it's just a subtle thing, and it will help. It helps if you did this in actuality and looked at a high resolution screen, non-compressed on the web, you would see that actually helps it out a bit. So okay, that's what that does. It just adds it, anti-aliases it after a little bit more after the eye distort. All right, that's what that was for. Okay, so now what we need to do, we're at the point where we need to bring the text node in to create the island. All right, so that is what this dangly bit down here is going to do. This is going to be our island. This is a white shape coming in that is eroded, all right? And the way we're going to do that is we're going to just take this and we're going to hit M to get a merge node. And we're going to connect the Erode Smooth into it. Actually, no, we're going to reverse those two. The B input needs to go into the Erode Smooth so that this is our background. And we want to put the original erode on top of it so that it eats away at it. Now, we can see here that we have a problem. And I'm sure people are going to pick up on that and say, wait a minute, Pirate Pill. I just want to snap that in. The problem we have is that we've eye distorted in these two spots over here, but we have not eye distorted on this chain here. And so that creates a problem in that our text or this Erode Smooth coming in here is not, this shape is not distorting with that, and so it doesn't line up, and so we are seeing the underlying thing below it. So what we're going to do here is, because this is the original, I think I'm debating You know what? I think we're going to try and we're going to clone this one, because I think we want this to match that as much as possible, because this is the distortion for the waves. So we're going to hit Alt K and just duplicate that. And we got to search for it because Natron puts it way out in the middle of nowhere. Grab that, pull that over here. And we're going to just, we're going to hook this up to there for our source. And then we're going to go into the, like so. And then we're going to take our, and put a dot node right down like so. Connect it in like that. We'll take the UV and connect it across. Let's pull this down a little bit so that it goes in nicer. Right about there. There we go. It crosses across. And by putting that in, now if we look at this before, let's see if this renders. Oh yes, we're not looking at it at the correct spot. So this is before and then after, and we can see that indeed distorts our background text so that it lines up with it. See, this is before, this is distorted. And so when it superimposes over it, and just so we can see that, let's just do a difference for the time being. I'm changing this to a difference so we can see the two, so that we can see that black outline. So before, this is before, we can see how it's not going to show up very much, but right here, this curve here is coming out and going past the edge of the text node, and so it's showing up on the edge. And you know what, I'm just trying to think of a way, wondering if I can don't do this on yours. No, we're not going to do that. I was gonna unhighlight one of those. I'm just trying to think of an easy way to show this a little bit better, because the problem is it's black and white. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, for the moment, put in a shuffle node so that I can just change one of the channels. We're going to change this to 0. That way it's blue. All right. That way this will stand out more. So we can see that our text over here is yellow, and when it gets inverted when it is put over this. So the yellow is where our original image, where this is black, that will become yellow, and where this is white, it will become blue. All right. So this yellow will become blue. All right. So the blue is that text, is our text letter, and we can see where the yellow turns black right here. That's the bit that shows through on the edge without the eye distort in there. And by just enabling this eye distort, we can see that it distorts it, and now it follows that contour completely, perfectly. And this is one of the beauties of this particular edge detect node, or this gimmick node, is that this edge offset node, is that it produces such wonderfully consistent results that you can count on. You can create masks as long as it gets a little wonky with the Erode Smooth, and we're going to actually have to fiddle with it a little bit to get the islands to work properly. But I wanted to just show that so we could see what's going on here properly. And we can see it's doing it perfectly with every single node. So that's the reason these two have to be duplicates of one another, is so that we can see that. All right. Okay. Let's get rid of that shuffle node, and then let's change this back from difference to over, because we want to basically make it white. We're making it white. Why are we making it white? Well, because ultimately when we go to the next step, which is this is putting our text back on top of it. Now, all right, you're saying, well, why would we want to do that? Well, let's go back and take a look what happens if we start taking the size of this and increasing it. Or is it decreasing it? We use this Erode Smooth. I'm sorry. Let's see. I'm hoping this is going to become apparent. There we go. So if we make this, it's like -10, we can see that we can push a water line away from the the text area. But as we can see here, as we make this Erode Smooth bigger, we run into this problem that it starts getting icky, and we can start seeing, you know, we actually start seeing those, a little bit of our ghost image coming through it, of the underlying stuff. So we need to fix that and get it so that it's nice and smooth and round around here. I like how it looks over here, but I really think this looks a wee bit janky to me over on that side, and it looks a little bit janky up here. So how can we fix that? Well, that might be, I actually didn't bring, let me just look at the time. I was worried we might not get this far, so I didn't actually load the full project. So I'm going to do this part from memory. My recollection. The question is do I stop it here and say we'll answer that in the next episode, because there's another part of this. We've done this for almost an hour. But we can see the beginnings of how this works. The reason it's coming up soft. All right, I'm gonna just. Let me just look at this for a second. Oh no, I did do it on this one. I take it back. Oh, it is in here. All right. So how do we fix this? The problem is when we go back over here, this is soft. Why is it soft? Well, because we have the Erode Smooth on it. And we can see the Erode Smooth looks pretty good over here. But when we go over into here, once we go over here, we can see it looks really janky and awful. But here, it kind of looks rounded. And the reason that it's not translating is because they're working from two different points. The transition point, we need to shift the transition point for that edge detect. And at the same time that we do this, we want to get rid of this ghosting that we're seeing. It's very, very, very subtle. You might not be able to see this. I'm hoping you can, but you can see bits, this little like dark, or I shouldn't say dark, very light gray, like just ghost images of what was in there. And that's because the eye distort is not perfectly smooth. So what we're going to do here is put in a clamp node. And we're going to set this clamp node to... We're going to set it, we've done this, you guys know what we're doing here, and we're basically going to set it so that it does the maximum and the minimum. I just want to make sure this is doing exactly what I expected. Yes. So we're going to clamp it to, 1 or 1 and 0 for both of these. And we're going to just zoom this out a little bit so we can see it. And what we're going to try and do is pull this down, the maximum down, until we can eliminate the edge so that it is, well, here, watch what happens. We're going to stop bringing this down. And as we bring this down, we can see that it gets harder and harder until we get to a point where it will look nice and smooth. So let's take it down to about 1. Let's see if that looks any better. It actually does not look any better. Why does that not look any better? Hold on. Something's wrong. I think I actually changed this. I think this is the part that I changed. I think I set this up to point like 4 or 6, and then I set the other one to like 1. There we go. Let's try that instead. That's odd. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, it's affecting that. That's where it's affecting it. Oh, let me just see. I feel like I thought I'd fixed that. Oh, this must have been a project. Oh, I'm sorry. I reverted to a version of a project before I did some extra bits, and I think I skipped it. All right, so, right, let me just see. No, it's not doing the... Oh, because we haven't... Let me just double check my jankies over here. If this doesn't work here, we'll probably pick this up in the next one. Oops, it shouldn't be 10. It should be -10. Sorry. You're not going to see it. I just want to look at it on mine. Oh, it does do the jankies. Wait a minute, but it's not doing the janky to the same level. More suspicion levels are high. Why are we not getting the jankies on this one? Let me look over here and compare these two. Just want to double check, make sure we have something nearest quadratic. 3, 10, -10. Looks good, looks good. The dilate, what's the dilate? Dilate's here. Let me look here, look there. Looks good there. 15, 15. Good. And then the blur. Right. 11, 11. Correct. Everything's good. Just double checking the dilate, making sure it's working on the alpha. Yep. All right. Let's go to the eye distort. 0.510. Yeah. Okay. Smooth. And then there. I'm just double checking things. It's not. Oh, I'm definitely getting something different here. All right. Why am I getting something different here? What's going on? Hold the phone. Something weird's going on. I have a feeling. No? Is that going to the mask or the A? That's the A. That's weird. Rounding box is B. So I'm just going to let people know where I'm running into a difference here is on at this point. What the heck? I just lost. Oh. I'm getting a very different result on this area. It's a lot more jagged in our current version than it is in the original one, which I find very interesting. I'm going to pull over the original. So this is what I'm getting over in the original one. And we can see it's nice and curvy here. And if we look, whoops, I didn't want that to take up that much screen. We can see over here, this is definitely doing this little jaggedy there that is not happening in the other one. And that may be what I'm worried about, is that this may be an inconsistency with the gimmick node converting this, which would be unfortunate. I don't think so. This node's been incredibly consistent for me. So I think, well, we're not going to worry about it. It's not a big deal because there's ways we're going to be able to deal with this. But I will look at this more in the future. So, and make sure that this is going to work. But we basically at this point have something, it's not perfect at this point. At this point, we're definitely going to be going over this a little bit more and talking about things. And the goal of this today was really to get to the point where we got down to where this was at 0, which is what I wanted it to be for a breaking off point for today. Because if we get into doing the next part, and you can see that where this isn't a perfect match, but it gets pretty good. And we get these nice round edges. And we're going to work on figuring it out. And I promise by the next episode, I will figure out exactly why that's off. And I do want to pull these off over a little bit because just looks weird. I don't like it looking a little bit wonky there for you guys. I want this to be a nice clean project when we do the ultimate upload of this. And for anybody who's watching this on YouTube, I know that projects haven't been uploaded, that probably by this point they will be fixed, but there's going to be a lot of the projects will be updated. Anyhow, we get to the point where if we go here, let's zoom in on that, and we wind up with this. And so we wind up with something that gives us this nice eroded texture around the edge. And I wanted to bring this up for a couple of reasons. This is one other thing I want to do before I stop this, which was show a variant of something. After discovering this, there's one other thing that's really kind of cool about this, which is we could take the same node. If we go back up to, let's copy this off to the side here. And if we do a ramp over here, no, a ramp, there we go. And we connect it up here. And, well, actually, let's focus on this. So if we take our ramp and we set our ramp to so that the two values are within 1 pixel of one another vertically. So 0.0 and 0.1 are 1 pixel away. So it doesn't matter which one we pick, 100 or 200. We can just say we'll do 101 here, and we can see that makes it so that in 1 pixel or 1 line it goes from basically 0 to 1. If we go back to our edge detect here, and we look at that full screen, or like this, lo and behold, we got almost exactly the same thing we had before, but with a single node. We got, this would be a 6 space line, but we could set this to, I think it is 4 in 1 or 3 in 1. So if we change it like this, I believe this is one of our patterns, and we could literally just, if we wanted to, we can use this to duplicate it a second time and make the second pattern. Now I just wanted to bring this up because I was like, wow, this actually could do everything using just this type of node. I'm not sure if this renders as fast as the other one, using the checkerboard, but and it does suffer from one other small issue, which is wherever your transition is, you're going to wind up with one white line in the middle, or extra thick line in the middle. But that's not a huge problem as long as your texture or your map texture that you're using doesn't wind up in it. But we could literally take these two, merge them together. Let's see. If we set this one, if we change it so that they are, let's see. Let's just bring it down so that one's 50% over the other one, like so. And then change one so that instead of scale is 4, we'll change it to scale is 2. Okay, yeah, so right there we go. So we can see that the 2 lines are gray and the 4 lines are black. So every other line we wind up with, we have one set and we have the other set, and we got it all with a simple thing, and all we'd have to do is check our eye distorts, and that's just way easier. In fact, we don't even need 2 ramps. We just need the 2 bits. We can feed the same ramp into both textures, and then we can just adjust the ramp. Way easier to get that. I mean, that's like, we did like 4, we had to use 3 nodes to create the actual pattern to get it, because we had to do it in multiples with using the checkerboard, and then we had to scale and crop and do all that. This is all done with 2 nodes, and well, 3 nodes if we include the ramp. So it's actually more efficient for it, as long as you can deal with the one, where is that one node? There it is. You can see right in here. Actually, it works pretty well on this one. You don't even notice it because it's a size of 1. Well, or a size of 2, I think it is. But actually, that's pretty good. Anyhow, I don't want to dwell too much longer, because it was just something to bring up as a besides the thing. So these 2 nodes, or this one node, can do our entire map texture pattern or dither pattern. We could apply the same thing for either type of pattern, which is really cool. In fact, we could do a whole bunch of different patterns because this will follow contours. We can get it so that it could go from these straight lines to the curved lines and back again, based off of, because it looks at how things intersect. And that's actually how this is working over here. We actually wind up going from straight lines into curved lines. It just does it very, 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 we can see it does these very rapid transitions into it. So you wind up with hard lines. But that's both a blessing and a curse, because it makes it look like when you do these types of things, a lot of times cartographers are very, very precise. And same with etchers and so forth. They're very precise with their lines. So this is actually great for that type of stuff. Anyway, I think that's where I want to stop. So today's goal again was our goal is to get towards this, which is not perfect. We don't have perfect. We haven't done the outline, the dark thick outline, and we'll deal with that in the next episode, because that has extra implications on how we do that. And beyond that, yeah, I think we'll deal with the rest. So, right. Thanks for watching and keep on Natroning.